Good morning.
Morning.
Good day.
Oh dear, where have you been on holiday?
I've not been on holiday at all, Christopher. I was just thinking if your new sound system was working properly.
We shall find out, won't we?
Well,
New laptop, Chris?
Yeah, I've had to get a new laptop.
obviously it's been paid far too much money, but never mind.
Yeah, exactly the same as you, David, and exactly the same as you, Callie.
Exactly. But some of us do more work than others.
Oh,
Of course. And we all know that the Reverend David Baldwin as Rural Dean does 3 times more work than Callie and I combined.
absolutely.
And according to the Bishop at Synod on Saturday, I'm one of the great Anglicans.
We're an august company.
Oh,
How are we ever going to
All I
match
can
up?
say is I wish the Bishop had never said it, because I've only spoken to David for half an hour since, and he's not going to let it live it down. He was painful enough beforehand.
right. Ranked in the annals of great Anglicans are myself and Reverend Neary. I mean, I ask you, it is, it's something I've never ever dreamt of. I was quite happy in exalted company of the canon, but
Is this why you're no longer on Bishop's Council then?
I'm no longer on Bishop's Council. No, I'm far too busy being great to be on Bishop's Council. However, shall we sidetrack that, because I know that I'm not going to live that statement down at the Rural Deans meeting next week. So there we are.
You never know.
the
Harry
gospel
might broadcast it across the diocese, across the Lyme Bay deanery.
I know.
The gospel reading is specially for you today, David.
I know. That's what I was thinking. That's why I offered to read it, Kelly. There we are. Shall we have a pause, Chris? A reading then from Mark chapter 10, from 35, verses 35 to 45. James and John, the son of Zebedee, came forward to him and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What is it you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Grant us to sit one at your right hand and one at your left in your glory." But Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" They replied, "We are able." Then Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared." When the 10 heard this, they began to be angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and said to them, "You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and they are great, and those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many.
If you're so great an Anglican, does that mean you're now our slave?
Yes, always have been. The only word I ever learned at that August Theological College that you and I went to, Chris, was the word doulos.
Very good.
Explain.
It means servant, slave. And I recognised when I first saw the washing up rota at the August College, and I was down on it 2 or 3 times more than anybody else in the first term, I must have been that doulos person. You're impressed, aren't you? I knew that
don't
word.
tell me you're still washing up to this day.
I am. I did it before we came on air, Chris. Did it before we came on air.
Very good.
Yeah, and I can just see you're totally impressed. I knew one word of Greek.
Don't worry, I knew it wouldn't. I wouldn't extend to 100.
It wouldn't extend to 2, I don't think, Chris. Or the kebab. I know that word. Is that okay? Kebab.
Yeah, that's okay. That's more of a realistic one, isn't it?
Anyway, what a wonderful reading. Those poor disciples, they were such a batty bunch of blokes, weren't they? They really were.
It's changed, really.
No, okay, you're right. Absolutely right that you are. They were bonkers, the lot of them. You know, their requests, their ideas, their thoughts. They just shut up. Thank you.
It's a real thought, though. It's a danger for us, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got it right. You've got it wrong. My theology's right. Therefore, I'm special.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm getting to heaven and I'm going to sit at Jesus' right hand because I've advocated the right type of Christianity. Whereas you've got your Christianity a bit skewed because you don't quite agree with me.
And it's interesting that even Jesus himself said, it's not his gift to decide.
No, stop it.
It is for those for whom it's been prepared. I love the idea that we've all got our different places, that we've all got our place. And, it isn't, we don't earn our position. We don't have it as right, as of right. We can't just, grasp it as of right. We've all got our positions, and actually there's a sort of, I find it quite comforting that I've had get on doing our thing, and that's fine. We don't have to.
One at the other end of the spectrum in the last few weeks at a funeral. I had somebody say, well, I'm not coming to that funeral. How can they have a church funeral because they were really bad?
Oh gosh.
And I said, well, actually, I'm not a judge to know who's got it right or wrong. So I think equally, as we're criticising the disciples there for wanting to be right at the top table, sat at Jesus' left and right, it's equally right that we don't know who's at the bottom of the table or who's kicked off it. And I find it quite a privilege actually not to be a judge and to have to work out who's in and who's out and who's up and who's down. The fact that we're all on this little journey between us, working out where we're going, working out our salvation with fear and trembling is the phrase or something, isn't it?
We had a big discussion about that at Alpha last night, actually, about judge, what it means for God to be judging, and what it means to have a judgmental God, and actually moving away from that sort of negative idea of a judgmental God, being a cruel and heartless a God who will come down on us like a ton of bricks for anything we've done, to a God of justice. So, rethinking that word judgment more in the light of justice, and how good it is that God, all-knowing God, is the judge and can dispense justice, not us with our limited partisan views.
It's a nice thought, isn't it? That's where discussions with people like who are doing Alpha and that get quite interesting, because we learn just as much, don't we?
Exactly.
Yeah, is Row all sorted then, David?
I've just removed her from the premises. I think they're cleaning the street cleaners out there, and I think she was having a go at the noise. But whatever it is, she's now been removed and put into shame in her dog kennel. So I did judge her, I'm afraid, based on her barking. But she's returned. She's found her way back.
Did you judge her at the top or at the bottom of the pile?
I just judged her for what she was. And that's a dog that was barking, and if she didn't stop, she was going to get a smack on the head with a broom. But it didn't occur, so don't worry, dear.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was purely metaphoric. Please do not report David to the RSPCA. He wasn't genuine.
If it didn't happen, believe me, it didn't happen, because she's far too loved and stupid. So there we are. No, that whole thing of judgment is interesting, isn't it? Because I've taken your line before now, Chris, that it's not me that judges. Over many things, whether it be when we at the very beginning of my ministry, I had to make the decision whether I would enter into the remarriage of divorcees, because that's how modern it was in those days, 30 years or so ago. And I remember my then training incumbent, Tony Sadler, saying to me, you're coming towards the end of your first year, you have to decide when you're doing weddings, are you going to marry? And the more people I listened to on that debate, a lot of it was judgment being made about a person or another person, as opposed to the effects of what was going on in their lives. And I've always thought that ultimately God's quite capable of making decisions and judging without my help or interference. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah. It's very difficult not to get our prejudices in the way and our pre-thoughts of people in the way. It's very difficult not to, you've got no place in God's kingdom. But then also I find it really interesting of some people who talk to me on a funeral visit about how bad somebody was, and then somebody else from a different sphere of his life will tell you how brilliant the guy was. And, we don't know all of it. Just the same with all the great people in our diocese.
Including
in our diocese.
Canon David Baldwin.
And Joe Neary.
And Joe Neary.
And one or two others were named as well.
Oh, right.
Named by the bishop as being so great. They are great in certain aspects, but we don't really know whether they're great in other aspects, do we?
Yes.
Great Anglicans, I think, was the word. Just think of the worldwide Anglican communion, Chris, to be ranked amongst, it's such a burden on my shoulder, and I'm thankfully that the Lord will judge, not me, whether I'm great or not. I have a feeling he has a different viewpoint to that, and so I know my faults. But that's the point, you see. We all have faults, and once we close our own front doors, nobody knows what goes on in our lives like anybody else's lives, do they?
We don't. We really don't
know I don't know the struggles you may have, or the different, whatever. You don't. We only know what we share with each other, and that's fine. And that's fine. In that reading, though, I've always been fascinated by that bit about, can you drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I've been given? I mean, the answer is, I don't think I could ever live up to the Lord with any of that whatsoever. And in a way, that's a little bit like last week, isn't it? About in the reading about sell everything you've got, give it away, and follow. And Patrick Evans, one of our retired clergy, former Archdeacon of Canterbury, preached midweek about that, and he just used 3 words. He said, "I want you to think about 3 words: sell, give away, follow." And what does all that mean? Now, that's not easy, is it? Because the disciples said, "Well, we've given everything away for you, Lord." And some of us could answer, that's what we did when we were called into ministry, because we gave up, former things and all kinds of things. But we didn't have to do it. We answered a call to God, feeling it was right. And you think with these disciples, that do they really know what they're saying when they say, "Yes, we can do that"? We can.
Jesus says they will. The cup that I drink, you will drink.
You will drink. Well.
So it's not easy, is it?
Yeah, it isn't easy.
The path they follow.
That's what it's about. It is about a path, and greatness is only measured by certain things. And if stupidity is one of them, then I'm top of the class.
I am.
Boys, stop competing with one another.
Yeah, but stop competing for greatness. Your name wasn't mentioned, Chris. Don't worry. But
it's interesting. This reading is back about James and John, the sons of Zebedee, which is just almost like 2 brothers fighting, just like David and I are. But actually, even Peter, that great man Peter, he did the same. Lord Jesus, you said, "Can I be baptized with what you're being?" "Yes, I can. I'm going to follow you. I will never deny you. I'm going to be there to the end." All the other disciples will give up, and I'll be there. Yeah. And then we all know what happened when the cock crowed 3 times.
Yeah, exactly.
But the loving Jesus restored Peter.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he does.
And he did drink the cup that the Lord drank, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
You know, and followed on. And yeah, I mean, Peter for me is my hero. Some people like Paul, others probably like others, but Peter, because I see
Yeah.
so much of myself in Peter. Stupid, you know. Should we build 3 houses up halfway up a mountain for you, Lord? Now I know you can take that out of context, and I do deliberately, of course. But it's just interesting that they're all there, and yeah, do they know what they're saying? That they're so taken up in the moment, almost, aren't they? You know, you could argue, as I heard Rowan Williams arguing it. Well, put forward a point. You know, yeah, do they really know what they're saying? Are they just trying to curry favour?
I know.
Yeah, what is it they're trying to say? Do they really realise? And I think that's the point of the view. And it's a bit like that reading again. You know, when we say, yeah, I actually asked the congregations last week, what are you giving up to follow Jesus?
Mm.
And we could all, we could all answer that's the same as this. You know, yeah, if you want to sit at the Lord's right hand, what are you doing? And can you really take up the cup? Would you be prepared to go to the cross yourself? And I wonder how many of us actually would put our hands up and say, yes, we can.
I think the only way we will ever know that is if you're actually put in the situation.
Oh yeah,
because it's very different saying what you think you would do and actually doing something when, like, there's a gun to your head sort of thing. And we don't really know how we would react at that moment.
I'm really struck by Jesus's patience, his endless patience with these obtuse disciples who don't get it and who fight amongst themselves and who are overzealous and over-promising without realizing, and that patience, the patience of his teaching and his persistence and his endless love for them, that really comes through. And of course, there's that wonderful Maundy Thursday gesture that we remember on Maundy Thursday when he washes the disciples' feet. That servant, that's what I think of when I think of Jesus as doulos.
Yeah, exactly. And also that bit about patience. You're right. Yeah, again, for me, it always comes out in that reading we use often at funerals from John 14, when he's told them, "I'm going, and I'm going to find a place for you, and there'll be plenty of room for you to join me." And doubting Thomas, and there's a bit of doubting Thomas in all of us, isn't there? If we're honest, you know, he said, "How on earth can we know we go? You've never taken us there." And I can imagine at that point Jesus putting his head in his hands again and thinking, how many more times have I got to tell you and show you? You know, you still haven't got it. And you wouldn't ask a question like, Lord, you know, can I sit at your right hand and your left hand? You know, and can we sit whatever? I mean, and then the argument's going to pursue as to which one should be at his right hand and which one should be at his left hand. You know, and you can just, as you say, you can see him just sitting there. And there's another story, isn't there, where one of the disciples' mothers asks that question.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, and I think actually going back to Callie's point about the patience of Jesus, I often think, you know, you've got James and John here. Oh, we want to be right at the top. We're the best, aren't we? You know, I've already mentioned about Peter, and Peter denied Jesus, and we just mentioned doubting Thomas. By the time you take Judas, who betrayed Jesus, you cross off Peter for denying Jesus, you cross off Thomas for doubting, Jesus is down to 9 disciples. You know, I mean, you're in an ever diminishing team.
Yeah.
Whereas, all right, Judas couldn't live with himself, but they replaced him. He forgave Peter and brought Peter back into the fold. He met Thomas where his doubts were and brought him back into the fold. And I think that's a great team player of Jesus. So actually, with all our faults, whether we want to be great or not, we're in this together. And no matter how bad you are, you're in the team with us. And I'll draw my arms around you and keep you going.
Aren't we lucky to have a wonderful rural dean who supports us in our team and serves us so well?
I think the word you're looking for, Kelly, is great, and I'll accept that. Thank you very much. And you can keep on saying that, but you're not currying any favours, and you're not going to get anything. out of this adoration moment. But I was just going to say, Chris, and both of you ended up with, but you went slightly off key there, Callie.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I think you're
back in line.
absolutely right. We are so lucky not to have a great rural dean. You are, that's accepted. But we're so lucky to have a wonderful Lord that does love us and cares for us so much.
Yeah.
That he's prepared to do everything, just as I am for you, Callie and Chris, and the rest of you, because that's the kind of guy I am. I'm not the Lord, though, because I could never live up to his greatness and his wonderfulness and everything he does for us, and accepting my stupidity and accepting your whatever. And so we actually, from my point of view, I say, Lord, thank you for being loving, caring, kind. And I don't know about you, but I'll say hallelujah to that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well done, Jesus. That's all we can say, isn't it?
And that comes back to the discussion we had off air about Synod, where actually the debate was, how are we making Jesus known? Because that's the key to it all. Unless we can make Jesus known, and those who work with us and around us and who worship with us can make Jesus known, no one's going to know. But we've got to give them the confidence to be able to explain, and your Alpha course, I'm sure, Callie, give them the confidence to be able to talk about why Jesus is so good and great and worth following. Now, dear viewer, if you yourself have got an even better idea or thought or answer to all of those wonderful questions, and thank you to those who spoke to me in the week. I had a number of people speak to me to say that they listen in. And I had one person who's a lay worship leader spoke to me to say they like to listen because it gives them ideas and thoughts about what they can say over a weekend. We don't know who's watching us. And Joe had a lovely letter I saw this week from a lady in Bristol somewhere who tunes into our online service every week because everywhere else has stopped doing online services, she said. And she tunes in every week. And Joe's voice is often the only voice she hears over a weekend. And we don't know what effect the Lord is having through us, do we? So there we are. Right, dear viewer, we will be back, I think, next week. I may not be. I can't remember whether I'm at the Rural Deans. I think I'm at the Rural Deans meeting next week. So, but if I am, I'll let Chris and Callie know. I'm sure they'll carry on without me, because they will be great.
Carry on and pretend to be great without the greatness.
You will be great, and I can assure you, because of Bishop Stephen's remark at Synod, I am going to get hounded galore at the Rural Deans meeting next week. But I will go with my armour, supplied by Paul, ready to go and to fight, and all will be well.
Godspeed.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon, everybody.
Bye-bye.